Hi, this is James, and this is video, I believe, 12 in my series before my EP drops April 18th. Old Conversations by James Co. And for this video, I just want to do an album bracket. This is based on, I think it's Rate Your Music's top 50 albums, that dreadful place that is Rate Your Music. However, I enjoy doing stuff like this. I don't really believe all albums can be compared. I don't really think people should view music that way. However, it's still fun just to get your opinions out there. So yeah, starting things off, King Crimson, Red against Dark Side of the Moon. I like King Crimson. If this was a different King Crimson album, I think this would be much closer and much different. Dark Side of the Moon, just to me, has way more memorable tracks. It's unique in the sense of how like catchy a lot of it is, given the genre that it comes from. And like, yeah, I'm gonna go with Dark Side of the Moon here. Here's the King Crimson album that I think would have like won that matchup. However, A Love Supreme by John Coltrane, I mean, I don't know if I like ballads more by Coltrane. I think Love Supreme I like more. It might, I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to go Love Supreme. I think it's the best saxophone work you're gonna hear in jazz ever. All right, Godspeed against Black Sabbath, Paranoid. I hate that I'm gonna eliminate Sabbath this early, but like, it is Godspeed, and I'll probably explain why later. This is another unfortunate matchup. I love Mad Villain. David Bowie's one of my all-time favorite artists. Ziggy Stardust was the first album I listened to and was like, this is perfection. This is what music should be. So it's going to be Ziggy Stardust. And I mean, overall, just the storyline, the fact that the first and last songs are like the two best songs in the project. Mad Villain, as much as I love it, it's not all amazing all the time. I think it's, well, I shouldn't say that. It is all amazing all the time, but it's not as perfect, I guess. See, this is why comparing stuff is so like wrong. In so many ways. This is another example of this, because like Blonde I love. It's an album that gets an emotional reaction out of me that almost no other album gets. And when I say almost no other album, In Rainbows just happens to be one of the few albums that gets a bigger reaction out of me emotionally. And like, I have so much nostalgia to when I first started listening to In Rainbows. I got obsessed with it. I would play Skate 3 and listen to In Rainbows. It was a fantastic experience. Joy Division against Souvlaki. Man, I'm gonna go Souvlaki. It feels wrong. It feels wrong in like my heart, but like, which one do I think is better music? It's Souvlaki, kind of distinctly for me. All right, Good Kid, Mad City versus Charles Mingus, The Black Saint, and The Sinner Lady. There might be better Mingus projects. Good Kid, Mad City to me, I mean, maybe it's just the jazz that I like. It is more like third stream. I like a lot of third stream jazz, so like I guess that's why my preference isn't towards stuff like The Black Saint and The Sinner Lady, as much as I think it is a great project. But Good Kid, Mad City, I think it's just more impactful for me personally, in the sense of I enjoy it more. I have more nostalgia for it. Enter the Wu-Tang, I'm just gonna go with that. I don't want to talk about Kanye. I'm gonna go Love Supreme there. Dark Side of the Moon is great. It's not, for me, a top 3 Pink Floyd albums. So, I mean, yeah, Love Supreme there. Godspeed versus Ziggy Stardust. Again, I thought Godspeed was going to go a little bit further. Godspeed's an incredible band. I don't want to undermine that. But Ziggy Stardust, to me, is way more personally impactful. Just the nostalgia for it. This is another time where a matchup is just like unfortunate, but it's pretty handily Bowie to me there. In Rainbows, Souvlaki's great. I think there's better shoegaze albums. There's no other album that I think does what In Rainbows does better than In Rainbows. I'm a big Wu-Tang fan. I think Kendrick has better work. There are individual Wu-Tang members that I think have better solo projects than Enter the Wu-Tang. Enter the Wu-Tang to me is a better project. I think the beats are better. I think it's more fun. I think Good Kid, Mad City obviously is like better written. I don't want to act like, but it's like, if it's better written compared to better produced and better performances, which is weird to say better performances, because you have like one of the best, like some of the best performances of all time in rap on Good Kid, Mad City. but that can also be said about Enter the Wu-Tang in like a completely opposite way. Yeah, Ziggy Stardust is, man, I feel bad like putting away Love Supreme, because that album's like perfect in a different way than I think Ziggy Stardust is perfect. In Rainbows, Enter the Wu-Tang's incredible. In Rainbows just has a very personal nostalgia for it, and like yeah, I think production wise I would give it to In Rainbows. I think as an album, Ziggy Stardust is like comparable to very few. Now this might be harder than the final matchup for me to decide. Animals is my favorite Pink Floyd album. I listened to this the other day, and as well as Bitches Brew the other day. Both of these projects are so like, you can't describe it, because there's nothing else, like everything after it that tries to emulate it is just not as good as it. Like when you have this weird sort of ethereal, almost post-punky prog of Animals, and like then you also have like the fusion and like strangeness and like of Bitches Brew, that I'm gonna go Bitches Brew. I think, I mean, I mentioned it earlier, I like Third Stream, so it's not even my favorite like Miles Davis project. I think Sketches of Spain is my favorite Miles Davis project of the late era. I think you can't really compare early to like the cool era to like the experimental era. But yeah, it's gonna be Bitches Brew, but that was tough. There's so many better Beatles albums. Well, not so many, but you know what I mean. Like Sgt. Pepper's I think is better. I think Revolver's better. I think you can argue Rubber Soul is better. But To Pimp a Butterfly is just like so great and so undeniable. The Smiths' The Queen is Dead is great. I think I like Headmaster Ritual, that project. Meat is Murder. I don't know why I'm mentioning about the first track on it. Meat is Murder I think is a better Smiths album in a lot of ways. OK Computer is so good. It's OK Computer, but I want to say that Smiths project is great. I don't know anyone who would deny that. Okay, and The Airplane Over the Sea is a fantastic project. I get why it is so praised. I think it is fantastically written. When I think of something even more poignant that is fantastically written, this is just an unfortunate matchup where I think these are two projects where I can be in a similar mood and listen to both these albums, but I'm always going to pick Nick Drake over in The Airplane Over the Sea. See, now this is a matchup I want to avoid because these are two very similar projects for obvious reasons. If you know the history behind it, there's a sort of like mutual inspiration where Sgt. Pepper's came out after Pet Sounds because there's this, you know, like the Beatles wanted to prove that they were still fun and exciting, and Beach Boys kind of did Pet Sounds as like trying to push the boundary. And these are two albums I consider to be perfect. I think these are like 10s in my mind, like 10 out of 10 albums. And Sgt. Pepper's, I think, man, production wise, I think it's even. Like I love the way both these projects are arranged. It's weird to think that if you were to combine the Beach Boys and the Beatles discographies and asked me to rank them, I would say these two albums are my top two for both artists. Like if you were to combine their discography, these would be 1 and 2, and it would change based on the day. Today I'm feeling Pet Sounds. Pet Sounds with like Sloop John B is fantastic, but like I want to go home. Like just the themes on like it's thematically so powerful. And I think of what Smile could have been like, or Smile, that project, which is going to be the successor to Pet Sounds. If you don't know, it got scrapped. For various reasons it was recorded. It was Brian Wilson's project mainly. To think that would have been even better, and from what we know about that project and from the demos of it and all of that, like it would have been so fantastic and probably the greatest work of the 60s. Like Fishman's or Songs in the Key of Life, I'm not going to entertain this. For me, it's Songs in the Key of Life handily. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, when I first heard it, I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. And then like I got older and I was like, oh, I get why it's overrated. Loveless to me is the best shoegaze album. I've never listened to a shoegaze album that made me quite feel like Loveless. I think the closest is that first Jesus and Mary Chain project. Souvlaki is great. I know it was on this list earlier. I love Brian Eno's production on that, but Loveless. Wish You Were Here versus Kate Bush, Hounds of Love. I hate this matchup because I love both projects, and I think it's very unfortunate because I wish I could give the respect, because these are two projects that I personally feel like are like underrated by many, in the sense of Kate Bush Hounds of Love I don't think is underrated by like critics or people who know what's up, but like people who listen to like music of a similar sound that was very inspired by Kate Bush kind of underrate Hounds of Love because they don't check it out. Like if you're listening to So by Peter Gabriel and you hear the Kate Bush feature and it's like it draws you in, it's so incredible, it's like I think that's what is like radio play maybe is where I'm saying it's underrated, whereas it's almost the opposite with Wish You Were Here, where I feel like radio play in like the hearts of the fans and all that, it's not underrated at all. It's fairly rated, they love it, but like critically there's this weird sort of like thing with it where people are always like, well, it's not as good as Animals. So I mean, I'm gonna go with Pink Floyd because Pink Floyd has lost the earlier rounds and I want to see them move on. That's the only reason why those are even in my mind. This is a tragic matchup because these are both so incredible. I'm going to Pimp a Butterfly. My reasoning behind that is just To Pimp a Butterfly is perfection. There's nothing like it. Same with Bitches Brew, but To Pimp a Butterfly is doing things that you have heard before, but taking it to a whole new level that you didn't think was possible, and then also doing the like jazz rap fusion stuff that you haven't heard before. Whereas Bitches Brew is like entirely new, but it's still at that extreme high level. OK Computer, I think OK Computer just has more songs that I love. I don't think Pink Moon is like the perfect album. I think it's a fantastic album. This is a bad matchup. This is another, like, this could have been the top two. I don't know why this side of the bracket was so much harder for me. Songs in the Key of Life is perfect. I do think I like Inner Visions more from Stevie Wonder. I'm gonna go with Beach Boys because of that reason. Wish You Were Here, I love Loveless, but Wish You Were Here I still think it's perfect. I don't think Loveless is perfect in my mind. OK Computer, To Pimp a Butterfly. God, this is like the music nerd debate of like, I think this is like a battle for like top 2 on Rate Your Music or something. I don't know, I don't care about that, but I'm gonna go with To Pimp a Butterfly. I love OK Computer. I think there are much better Radiohead, not much better, but I do think there are better Radiohead projects. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with To Pimp a Butterfly. There's nothing else like it. Pet Sounds, that's unfortunate. Pet Sounds or To Pimp a Butterfly. I hate this matchup. It's To Pimp a Butterfly for me. Pet Sounds, as much as I've sung its praises the whole time, and while I think it's so genius, I don't think of it as a perfect no skip whatever. I hate that terminology, but just like there are lows on the album. There is no low on To Pimp a Butterfly. I've thought about this before, because this is whenever I do like an album ranking, this is almost always what it comes down to at the end, is like something like this, where it's, or at the very least at some level there's a matchup of like Ziggy Stardust and To Pimp a Butterfly. Ziggy Stardust means more to me personally. I think most people, it would make sense for them to pick To Pimp a Butterfly over Ziggy Stardust. I just think of like the nostalgia I have for Ziggy Stardust. I think of the fact that it is full, like each song has a hook in it that is, it feels like is the most memorable hook you've ever heard. Songs that you wouldn't think of, like Suffragette City obviously is a big song, but like when you listen to it, it's like there's so many different parts that are so memorable. 5 Years, incredible opener. Soul Love is like oddly good, like, and obviously Rock and Roll Suicide to me is like a top 3 song, maybe the best song ever made. So I'm gonna go with Ziggy Stardust. I'm not gonna download this image. This is not, I hate this. I hate that this is the ranking. I wish it had gone differently. I wish there was a different list. I wish people weren't as pretentious on Rate Your Music and like things that were good. Not that there was anything bad here, but I just mean like I think there's a lot better stuff that could have been on here. Yeah, so this is my ranking. If you like this video, subscribe, like the video, and yeah, I have an EP coming out April 18th. Check it out when it comes out, and thanks for watching.